These two teams, no strangers to one another. Some of the greatest games we've seen in MRDA history have taken place between these two squads. A great rivalry here between St. Louis and New York. So it should be a fantastic bout to get things started here, day two.
You know, it's one of those things that St. Louis is obviously, they want to play hard. They want to get to the championships. They want to win it at home. And they would love to beat whoever comes out between Texas and your mom, obviously. But then New York, you know, they won yesterday, big emotional win, that last jam win over Southern Discomfort. So it's one of those things. New York's riding high right now. St. Louis, they've got the hometown advantage. It's going to be a great game today.
Yeah, you kind of have to wonder, though, if that emotional and so close and physical contest may have taken too much out of them. However, they have had a good night's rest, so we'll see how they fare against the St. Louis team who skated to I don't want to say an easy win because, Bridgetown took it to them, but the score was very lopsided in that game. It was a very physical game, and we saw quite a few gatekeepers get, roughed up a bit, so it'll be interesting to see how that affects them here at today's play.
I did notice from looking over the gatekeepers rosters that they do have a couple of skaters that didn't skate yesterday skating today, so that should help them out, give them those fresh legs.
Yeah, mainly today you're going to see Handrail, Double XL, and Wrecking Bill, who were not so some size, in Double XL and Wrecking Bill being added to that roster today. So yeah, definitely a big bruising defensive front being brought to bear by the St. Louis Gatekeepers today.
Real quick, let you know, the New York Shock Exchange is number 0, Sammy Dangerfield. Number 10, Wolverine. Number 125, Malcolm Sex. Number 14, Marlon Brando. 164, Carl LaFou. 1983, I Don't Care Bear. Number 20, Abe Drinkin. 275, I Am Havoc. 311, Ottermatic. 42, Jeffery. Number 6, Jonathan R. Number 67, Tank Floyd Wright. 833F, Carnage Asada. And number 9, Kenbo Slice.
And for the St. Louis Gatekeepers, it's 0260, Spin Diesel. Number 1, The Saint. 11, Debaucherous Prime. 12, Handrail. 314, Double XL. 32, Shane Bauer. 5150, Incredible Hulk. 57, Monster Jam. 618, Blood Zeppelin. 66, Screech Around. 73, Stark. 82, Percy Control. 8060, Wrecking Bill. And L7, Magnum PIMP. So, 5 seconds, and we're about to get underway here, and it's going to be, to start off, Jonathan R. on the Lebeda Roller Derby Jammer line going up against Magnum PIMP of St. Louis.
Great idea, having such a 2-seed versus a 3-seed first game on this tournament. Gets everyone jazzed up, gets the tempo set for the day.
And it's going to be Magnum PIMP as your lead jammer here to start this game off. St. Louis in white, New York in black. Jonathan R. with a nice move on the inside line, 1-foots it. Meanwhile, Magnum PIMP slicks around at its same inside line, picks up 4 points, and that's going to be the call off here. So quick strike, sorry, I'm seeing 5. Oh, nope, 4. It is 4.
You're going to see a lot of that classic style of play. No one wants to make a mistake, so you're going to see some flash, obviously, but you're going to see a lot of the fundamentals with these two teams.
What we saw yesterday in that St. Louis versus Bridgetown game was 24 jams in the first half and then like 22 or 23 in the second. So the Gatekeepers playing at a very furious pace, just quick, short jams running time off the clock when they get a lead. So now we've got Carnage Asada out there jamming for New York, going up against Shane Bauer for St. Louis. Nice work as a New York defense, and Carnage Asada is going to be your lead jammer. Meanwhile, Shane Bauer having some difficulty with that New York pack. Blood Zeppelin, Spin Diesel, and Kyle Stark out there defensively for the Gatekeepers. It's Malcolm Sex, Kenbo Slice, and Sammy Dangerfield out there for New York. Both teams down a blocker. Make that New York down a blocker as Percy Control re-enters play.
Sammy Dangerfield, a unsung hero in their win yesterday against Sodisco. Like, he just had a game that didn't stand out but was always on every play. Very, very important member to the New York Stock Exchange. Excuse me, Shock Exchange.
So Shane Bauer has completed his initial pass. Carnage Asada still trying to get past Kyle Stark to get that last point. Carnage Asada loses his jammer panty, calls that jam off. So 5 points there for New York. We got ourselves a lead change here early.
I expect to be hearing that phrase quite a bit today. It's going to be a very close game, back and forth. Two very evenly matched teams. Gatekeepers got a little bit more size.
So jamming this time around, it's I Am Havoc for New York going up against Debaucher's Prime for St. Louis. Debaucher's Prime really took a pounding in that game against Bridgetown yesterday. We'll see how he reacts here today. And it looks like he's going to be your lead jammer to start. I Am Havoc still working. And now we're going to have ourselves a power jam, the track cut call on I Am Havoc. So an opportunity here early for St. Louis to capitalize on a New York mistake. And first scoring pass completed, a grand slam for Debaucher's Prime.
Like Double XL headed to the Derby Elite penalty box.
Kimbo Slice looking for a track cut call, did not get it. Nice work there by Corey Porter using Incredible Hulk's jersey to kind of slingshot himself around that bend. So Corey Porter just a little bit late on the call off there as I Am Havoc was released from the penalty box. So the power jam did come to an end there as the jam ended. But 13 points for Debaucher's Prime. He had a good day yesterday as well, so we'll keep an eye out on him.
All right, looks like we're going to have Screech around, mounting the jammer, the Breda Wheels jammer line for the Gatekeepers, and Jonathan R. for the New York Shock Exchange. Jonathan R., part of that two-headed monster of him and Kimbo Slice yesterday, putting up a lot of points for Shock Exchange.
Yep, both teams down one blocker. Scratch that, New York down a blocker as Double XL returns to play. Jeff Reese standing in the penalty box. He'll be returning shortly. Meanwhile, Screech around finds an inside line, and he's going to be your lead jammer. The Gatekeepers defense has Jonathan R. all bottled up. Spin Diesel with a forearm. He'll be set it to the Derby Elite penalty box. Both Jonathan R. and Screech around forced out inside on turn 2. Failure to reform called on 164. That's Carl LeFou. So Screech around calls it off after picking up 4 points. That was a very hard-earned 4 points. There's a whole lot of skating for just 4 points to happen there.
Indeed. The Shock Exchange does an excellent job of, even if a jammer gets through, they shore their defense up to ensure that they only get maybe 1-2 passes at most, and when they do, they pay for those passes.
As Kent the politician would say, right you are.
So we've got Carnage Asada doing the jamming duty for the Shock Exchange, and Magnum PIMP for the Gatekeepers.
So a bit of a defensive lapse there as Carnage Asada is able to get around the outside, and he's going to be your lead jammer. Magnum PIMP also out quickly.
There's something about the jammer position, you know, it likened to if you're going to go with another sport like the quarterback in football, you know. And there's something about that perceived notion that somehow I think jammers don't get the credit they deserve for being tough. And right there, Magnum PIMP just blew up Malcolm Sex to get out of the pack. And it was one of those things that you're like, oh, yeah, they're tough.
Oh, yeah. Especially with the play style of today's teams and the fact that they just kind of leave the jammer out there on an island, do his own thing, and there's not a whole lot of offensive blocking done anymore. So you're basically expecting your jammer to just fight his way through 4 guys each time around the track. Speaking of jammers, we got Shane Bauer out there for St. Louis. He's going up against I Am Havoc for New York. I Am Havoc, your lead jammer. Shane Bauer out quickly behind. And now we've got ourselves a foot race as the Gatekeepers take control of the front of the pack, trying to speed it up. And it looks like we're going to have a 0-0 jam there. A nice work by the Gatekeepers to take control of the front of the pack and speed that pack up.
That's what separates the good from the great, is recognizing that right there. They waited until he got up close so that they knew they weren't going to break the pack, took off. It was going to give their jammer either an opportunity to score or at the least keep their jammer from scoring, and they executed it perfectly.
So it's going to be Corey Porter on the Lebeda Roller Derby jammer line now for St. Louis, going up against Jonathan R. of New York.
With 1 left to beat, it looks like lead jammer is going to go to Debaucherous Prime, a.k.a. Corey Porter.
Yep, Sammy Dangerfield not quite enough to contain him. Jonathan R. also free of the pack as Corey Porter is forced out to the inside of turns 1 and 2. He calls that jam off, but not before picking up. It looks like 3 points there, so 24-8 now. The St. Louis lead with 21:42 on the clock here in the first half. Game 1, 2015 MRDA Championships, brought to you by WFTDA.tv. So on the Lebeda Roller Derby jammer line, it's now going to be Carnage Asada going up against Handrail. Handrail seeing his first action here this weekend. He's been a nice change of pace jammer for St. Louis. He's really cleaned up his play. Used to be a bit of a penalty problem, but he's cleaned that up nicely.
Carnage Asada with lead jammer for the Shock Exchange. So far, their most consistent jammer for this game.
And once again, we see St. Louis. They jump to the front of the pack and start speeding things up. Jeffrey trying to peel somebody off. It's not going to work, though, as Handrail is able to force the early call off. 0-0 jam there yet again.
We would like to thank Turn Left. Stop by the Turn Left Escape Pro to put your name in for a drawing. Oh, why am I reading the house one? Here we go, Turn Left. If you don't have what you need, we will ship it to you for free within the U.S.
Some of these people watching at home might be here later today. You never know.
Well, you can stop by the Turn Left Escape Pro booth and put your name in for a raffle if you want.
Hey, sure, why not? It's going to be Magnum PIMP against I Am Havoc now, as we see the Gatekeepers 4-man jammer rotation is now kind of tilted things up so the Gatekeepers can try to get the matchups they want. I Am Havoc forced to the back of the pack. Meanwhile, Magnum PIMP with just 1 to beat, and he does get out, so he's going to be your lead jammer. Meanwhile, New York in a bit of a penalty pickle as they are sending 2 players to the Antic Skates penalty box. Looks like Double XL on his way to the penalty box. Meanwhile, 5 points there for Magnum PIMP. Only Jeffrey to get around, and he does. So we have a star pass from I Am Havoc to Abe Drinkin, so that's going to force the call off. So only 9 points. I say only. It was an even strength jammer-wise. So 2 passes outside the norm.
Yeah, that was surprising when you said only 9. I was like, whoa. That's the largest jam so far today. Even the power jam earlier, I think it was power jam earlier, didn't net that many points.
So it's Kimbo Slice against Shane Bauer now. Kimbo Slice, the jammer that secured the win yesterday for New York against Southern Discomfort. Shane Bauer is your lead jammer. Blood Zeppelin sent to the penalty box, so it will just be Spin Diesel and Wrecking Bill. We've got a 3-on-2 pack advantage now in favor of New York. As I Don't Care Bear re-enters play, Shane Bauer calls that jam off. And it looks like Double XL was just released from the penalty box as that jam came to an end, so he's going to return to play. Now we have a timeout called for New York.
This team timeout brought to you by Derby Elite. Roller Derby Elite, official sponsor of the men's Team USA Roller Derby.
Once again, this is Day 2, Game 1 of the 2015 MRDA Championships, and you're watching it right here on WFTDA.tv.
It's always cliche to say, but I'm going to say it anyways because I like cliches. New York taking the opportunity here to call that timeout. You got to stop that flow of points. You got to stop that momentum. You break it up, give everyone a breather, talk about strategy. 9 times out of 10, this usually helps the team that calls the timeout. I mean, sometimes the other team's just rolling and there's not much you can do about it. But Smart play by the coaching staff of the Shock Exchange.
And those of you watching at home, your eyes are not deceiving you. If you look just to the right of Double XL, there's actually a pajama party going on turns 3 and 4. That's some St. Louis fans there have shown up in their pajamas. It is an early game, so I guess that's okay. I believe I heard that there were going to be some mimosas passed around over there as well. So
Ooh, I'm
thinking I might have to head over there at some point and grab a mimosa.
That does sound delicious. A mimosa.
So it's going to be Corey Porter against Jonathan R. here as we get back under play after the timeout by New York. Oh, wow. Double XL just crushed Jonathan R. Picked up a forearm. Just something for Jonathan R. to think about. However, he does get lead jammer, but Corey Porter also quickly out of the pack. About a quarter of a track behind. He's going to put on the afterburners to try to close this pace. Meanwhile, just Saint and Percy Control out there defensively. Let's see. Did he get it? No, no points. No points for Corey Porter. Just a hair late. 4 points. Sorry, 3 points for Jonathan R. Man, so close Corey Porter was to getting those points there at the end of that jam.
Jonathan R. took that very big hit. Double XL delivered a hit of his own going into turn 3 against Percy Control.
Yes,
so Jonathan R. doing it, taking hits, giving hits.
Carnage Asada against Screecheron. Screecheron finds an outside or inside line and gets lead jammer. Meanwhile, Percy Control crushes Carnage Asada on the outside of turn 1, so he's going to cycle back. Screecheron already back around on the scoring pass. So quick. Nice work by the New York defense as they force Screecheron out. And they drove the track cut. Percy Control with the shadow crush. And Carnage Asada heads to the antic penalty box. And now Screecheron goes to work on the power jam.
Again, Sammy Dangerfield for the New York Shock Exchange. In on every hit, on every play.
So Screecheron decides that rather than reset everything, he's going to call that jam off so that Handrail can now come out unopposed and have a little bit more time to secure lead jammer as this power jam continues. Both teams at full strength defensively. Only Carnage Asada sitting in the penalty box. Handrail unable to score any points his first jam out, but he did force an early call off. Monster Jam trying to give some offensive help. They do force him out.
Excellent job by the Shock Exchange there, continuously rolling in front of that offensive blocking, keeping ahead of the jammer and the offensive blockers.
So the power jam has come to an end. Carnage Asada is back in play. And Carnage Asada is going to get lead jammer as he finds a line on the outside. Handrail also able to get free. So Carnage Asada is going to get some points for St. Louis here. Let's see how many he gets. And it looks like Carnage Asada is going to run this jam out as Handrail is now scoring points. And now both teams cycling jammers back. Oh, wow. Wow, the Gatekeepers end up coming out ahead on that, a 3-1 jam.
It had the potential of being a great jam for the Shock Exchange, allowing Carnage Asada to get out, get lead, but then it just kind of fell apart there at the end. A little miscue from Carnage Asada, not calling it off in time.
So now it's I Am Havoc out there jamming for New York, going up against Magnum PIMP for St. Louis. Wrecking Bill the last one to pass, and he does, but Magnum PIMP is hot on Havoc's tail. Only about 20 feet separate these two jammers, and once again we see the Gatekeepers jump to the front of the pack and start the race. Oh no, Spin Diesel takes a bit of a tumble, so now they're going to try to peel him off. So they do have him at the back of the pack. And Havoc's going to get some points, but I think Magnum got one as well. Oh, 2 points. Wow. So back-to-back jams where the late call-off bites New York.
Surprised to see that from such a veteran team.
So you almost have to wonder if New York's recent experience with St. Louis and the fact that they've lost close games to them doesn't have them maybe with a little bit more sense of urgency where they're going to try to press their luck a little bit on some of these jams.
By the way, that was like watching the National Geographic Channel. It was like watching lions run in a herd of gazelles and then try to take one back.
Yeah.
It was...
Ooh. Pile up there at the Antic Boots pivot line. Oh, nice work by the Saint as he forced Kenbo's slice out on turn 2. Meanwhile, Shane Bauer trying to recycle his. He finds a line on the inside past Sammy Dangerfield. He's your lead jammer. Kenbo Slice now working against 3 St. Louis defenders. That's Monster Jam, the Saint, and Incredible Hulk. Incredible Hulk's going to drop back off on the bridge. Not sure what Kenbo Slice thinks he's accomplishing at this moment, but now he tries to make a move. And he's forced out again. So no track cut call. And now we're going to have ourselves a power jam as a forearm called on Shane Bauer. So a power jam situation here for New York. Kenbo Slice coming around looking to score more points. He already has 5 on this jam. New York looking to cut into that lead. The score right now 50-18 in St. Louis's favor, and now Double XL is going to take a seat.
Excellent job there by Kenbo Slice, staying on that one skate on his toe stop on the line. Manages to stay in bounds, takes another hit, gets free of the pack. Nice move around the Saints. Gets another, 4 points now for Kenbo Slice.
Once again, we're seeing what usually happens with St. Louis. They get into penalty problems, and then they start giving up points, and they let teams back into games. So now the jam comes to an end. 4 points there to help ease the pain a little bit. So 14 points for Kenbo Slice in New York. It takes him to 17 points. Takes him to 30.
Big jam there for New York. Taking advantage of the, up to this point, very rare St. Louis penalty bug that bit him.
4-on-2 pack advantage in favor of New York here to start this jam, and it's going to be Jonathan R. taking on Debaucherous Prime. Double XL re-enters play. Oh, Jonathan R. is going to be your lead jammer. Nice little hop step on the inside line. Corey Porter still trying to get his way through the pack to make his initial pass.
Whoa! Such a comfortable individual, Jonathan R. on his skates. It's like watching somebody walk or dance. He's so confident on his skates.
And here we're seeing a bit of a mental mistake on the part of St. Louis as they did not feel the pivot. So Corey Porter has taken the jammer panty off, but he has no one to pass it to. And 5 more points for Jonathan R. Big hit there by 164. Carl LeFou forces Corey Porter out just as he had daylight.
Jonathan R. dealing with a very tough triangle up at the front now. It's Abe Drinkin coming in trying to offer some offensive assistance.
Monster Jam re-enters play for St. Louis. St. Louis defense back to full strength as they cycle Jonathan R. all the way back. And Double XL takes a tumble, and I think he's probably going to get a low block for that. So now we're looking at Double XL in penalty troubles. He already has 5, and we're not even through the first half.
Spin Diesel has just been all over Jonathan R. on this scoring pass. Being helped out there by Percy Control.
Oh, big, giant hit by Malcolm Sex. As that jam comes to an end, and now St. Louis is going to call a timeout, as just like that, only 14 points now separate these two squads. It's been a run here by New York to get back into this game.
We'd like to thank Bruce Ferry. Thank you, Bruce Ferry. Also like to thank Our Shop Gifts. Our Shop Gifts is your home for unique Derby swag. Our artists, our Derby, our Shop Gifts. Starting to be the tale of two halves of a half, as the Shock Exchange saw a little bit of penalty trouble in the first half of this half, and now the Gatekeepers seeming to get in a little bit of penalty trouble. The last two jams have been huge. 27 points scored in the last two jams by the Shock Exchange.
Yeah, the Gatekeepers already were 13 penalties here in the first half. New York with 11. So penalty heavy for both sides, really. So the timeout about to come to an end. It's going to be Carnage Asada out there for New York, going up against Magnum PIMP for St. Louis.
Magnum being the second highest point scorer for St. Louis so far this game. Carnage Asada does get out and get lead.
So Magnum PIMP also out of the pack. So Carnage calls the jam off, picks up 4 points, and he's pumped up.
Looks like we're going to have Screech around on the line for the Gatekeepers, and I am Havoc for the Shock Exchange. Havoc's been having a bit of a roller coaster weekend. There's jams where he comes out and looks amazing, and then jams where he gets real stopped up by the defense.
Ooh. Saint and Kyle Stark, the last lines against I Am Havoc. And there he goes. I Am Havoc is going to be your lead jammer. Screecheron has lost his jammer panty. Oh, big hit by Percy Control. Going to call that jam off, only 2 points. But now the lead down to 8 with 7 minutes to go here in the first half. It has been a wild opening game, day 2 here at the 2015 MRDA Championships.
So we're going to have Shane Bauer on the line for Gatekeepers and Kenbo Slice. The leading scorer so far for the Shock Exchange.
And Kenbo Slice is going to be your lead jammer for New York, so the momentum continues for New York. St. Louis having all sorts of difficulty here in the waning moments of the first half. Shane Bauer now also free of the pack. Kenbo Slice trying to put some points on the board. He's going to call that jam off as he's thrown out of bounds.
Obviously, the Gatekeepers would like it if the Shock Exchange didn't score at all, but they've done an excellent job on the scoring passes of really shutting the jammers down. They got 2 points in the last jam, 2 points on this jam. We'd like to thank LaBeta Roller Derby. We bout that lifestyle since 1969.
So the referee's out center track discussing some things. If things stand, there's 2 players in the penalty box for New York, 1 for St. Louis. That's Wrecking Bill in there for St. Louis, and that's Jeffery, and can't quite make out who the other one is. I think that's number 18. No, I don't see an 18 on there.
My eyes are bad. So.
Yeah, I can't make out who the other player is, but New York has 2 players in the penalty box. Wrecking Bill in there for St. Louis.
This is honestly more this type of score I was expecting. The Gatekeepers were starting to pull away with it there. But I was expecting a very close game between these two, historic rivals of men's roller derby.
Yeah, these teams very familiar with one another. They've played each other many times in the past.
Looks like St. Louis coming away with the lion's share of the wins, 6-2 against the New York Stock Exchange.
Don't forget, immediately following this game at 11 o'clock, you're going to get to see Texas take on your mom. So another big semifinal game here. The winner of this game and the winner of that game will face off in the MRDA championship game here at 7 o'clock. All times at Central. There's a shot of the pajama party over there in turns 3 and 4. Large contingent of St. Louis fans here in attendance. I see a lot of Arch Rival Roller Girls over there. Some former Gatekeepers in the mix as well. We're about to get underway. One of the advantages of home track advantage, each your own fans here in the doors. It's going to be Jonathan R. on the Lebedo Roller Derby jammer line going up against Magnum PIMP.
St. Louis with the blocker advantage as New York with 2 sitting in the Roller Derby Elite penalty box. Only 1 for St. Louis.
Jonathan R. working very hard against Incredible Hulk. However, he gets lead. Magnum PIMP is able to sneak around the inside. He gets lead jammer. Jonathan R. now working on the Saint, trying to get free. He does. But Magnum PIMP a lot of time to get around the track. He's going to pick up 4 points. He's going to call that jam off. So the Gatekeepers back on the board after a long dry spell. And now they're going to put Handrail on the line against Carnage Asada, who's been strong here in the waning moments of the second half.
Seems like Carnage Asada, same thing in the So Disco bout yesterday. Just needs a little time to warm up.
Yep.
No one likes cold Carnage Asada.
It's also very early for these guys, not accustomed to 9 a.m. games. So Bled Zeppelin, Spin Diesel, and Kyle Stark working on Carnage Asada. And now we've got a multiplayer block call against New York. Looks like, let's see who that is skating off. That's Tank Lloyd Wright actually headed to the penalty box. So he's not going to be your lead jammer, but he is out first, and that's Handrail. So lead jammer for Carnage Asada, and he's going to call that jam off, not allowing Handrail to score any points. And Pink saw something during that jam he was not happy with, Magnum PIMP as well. So they're both out there discussing with the refs what they saw.
Looks like we're going to have Shane Bauer jamming for the Gatekeepers, and I am Havoc for Shock Exchange.
St. Louis at full strength, New York down 2 blockers. So an opportunity here for St. Louis. Oh, Shane Bauer with a nice move on the outside line, and he's going to be your lead jammer. So St. Louis starting to try to take some of that momentum back. I am Havoc takes the jammer panty off. We'll see if he tries to pass or if he just tries to sneak. Looks like he's just going to try to sneak, but everybody knows he's there. Oh, how he managed to stay in bounds, I do not know, but he does on the inside line, so he has completed the initial pass. Shane Bauer, meanwhile, picks up 4 points for St. Louis, a big 4 points. Points have come at a premium for St. Louis here in the waning moments of the first half. Only 2:47 on the clock here in the first half. The St. Louis Gatekeepers up 62-48 over the New York Shock Exchange.
Got Debaucher's Prime, a.k.a. Corey Porter, on the line for the Gatekeepers, and Kimbo Slice, the leading scorer for New York Shock Exchange.
If you're just joining us, St. Louis in white, New York in black. Blood Zeppelin does a nice job forcing Kimbo Slice out to the inside. Both jammers now are going to have to recycle. Spin Diesel does a nice job on Kimbo Slice. Good defense by both squads. How did Corey Porter stay in bounds right there? I have no idea. Meanwhile, Kimbo Slice just pushing the pack up the front. Only one to beat. And he's going to be your lead jammer, Kimbo Slice.
Deceptively strong for his body type. Seems like he's just, you know, muscle and bone, but has some oomph to him.
Yes, he does. He's all the way back around, starting to put points on the board. Meanwhile, Corey Porter still trying to complete his initial pass as he's forced out of play again. New York starting to shed some blockers here as Malcolm Sex takes a seat in the penalty box. Now we got ourselves some Australian rules derby as everyone's skating the opposite direction. And I do believe this is going to go for a while.
That's 2 laps now.
And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why they skate the opposite direction in practice, for just these situations. I feel like we should have some carousel music or something going right now.
Corey Porter just not having any of it. He's I'll get back in when I get in.
Yeah. So now we're finally going to get back underway, and the jam comes to an end. So all that, and then they call the jam off. New York clearly just trying to run the penalty off of Malcolm Sex, who was sitting in the penalty box. So smart move there by New York. An interesting jam, to say the least.
Well, I mean, it's smart on Corey Porter's part, just for the simple fact that, you know, once the other jammer, in this case Kimbo Slice, gets in, the jam's going to come back to you eventually. So no sense in expending a lot of energy.
So only 11 points separating these two teams now. St. Louis 62, New York 51. What has been a very physical matchup, as we expected.
Oh, we've got Screech around jamming before the Gatekeepers, and that's Jonathan R. for the New York Shock Exchange.
Jonathan R. with 13 points so far in this contest. Screech around with 12. And here we go again.
Oh! I believe that was illegal.
Yeah, a little bit.
So Gatekeepers have been able to do more with less.
So initially lined up on the Antic Jammer line were the both teams, and then they skated back to the Beta Roller Derby Pivot Jammer line. Magnum PIMP starting off the second half for St. Louis. Jonathan R. starting it off for New York. St. Louis in white, New York in black. There's number 4 for Malcolm Sex here early in the second half. Meanwhile, Magnum PIMP, your lead jammer, Jonathan R. being cycled back. He has to work against Percy Control, Double XL, and Incredible Hulk. Magnum PIMP, meanwhile, dealing with New York's defense of Kimbo Slice and Mullen Brando. Magnum PIMP through for a grand slam, 5 points there. Star pass to Abe Drinkin. So Magnum PIMP is going to get 3 points there on that second pass. So 8 points total for that jam.
Karnan Jasada on the line for the New York Shock Exchange. He has got a 75% lead jammer. He's jammed, 7 times, 8 times now. Got lead on 6. He can improve that here, obviously. He's going to go up against Shane Bauer. third leading scorer so far for the Gatekeepers.
So the Gatekeepers will have a short-lived blocker advantage. That has come to an end. Meanwhile, Shane Bauer takes advantage and gets lead jammer. Carnage Asada still trying to complete his initial pass. New York sets up at the back of the pack, ready for Shane Bauer's return. Shane Bauer trying to work that outside line, but he's forced out by Kembo Slice. Has to cycle back. Meanwhile, Carnage Asada working into turns 3 and 4 on Spin Diesel, Led Zeppelin, and Monster Jam. Shane Bauer being cycled back into the back straightaway. Carnage Asada still trying to get past this stingy St. Louis defense. Just Led Zeppelin and Spin Diesel bridges. And Carnage Asada does finally get through. Shane Bauer still at turns 3 and 4, and he's going to have to call this jam off. Let's see what he got. He got 5, so 5 more points here as the Gatekeepers look to stretch that lead to score 75-51, 27:30 to go here in the second half.
We would like to thank ArmorFlex. ArmorFlex, the new era of protective gear. Thank you, ArmorFlex. So we're going to have I Am Havoc on the line for the Shock Exchange, Debaucherous Prime, a.k.a. Corey Porter, for the Gatekeepers. And with a nice move on the outside, it is Havoc for the Shock Exchange with lead jammer. Not to be outdone, Porter has made his way out of the pack as well.
Get up, Hulk!
So I Am Havoc quickly grabbing lead jammer as you saw, but Corey Porter able to skate around. He's going to get some points here, I think. Oh. Well, somehow I Am Havoc able to stay in play. However, Corey Porter also threw with 4 points and catching up with I Am Havoc. So again, we're seeing a situation where New York probably should have called this jam off earlier, and I think he's going to get one for Kembo. Referees conferring here. 2 points. That's right, there is a ghost point as Malcolm Sex sits in the penalty box, and that takes Malcolm Sex to 5 as well. And I'll tell you what, if they lose Malcolm Sex in this game, that's going to be big because he's played in 25 jams. He's played pretty much the entire game, him and Abe. So losing one of those would be a big blow to this defensive contingent of New York.
Indeed.
Jonathan R. out there now against Handrail. Handrail's forced. Oh, my God.
That was Automatic taking out
Ooh.
just a big hit and an awkward fall, but pops right back up. Impressive, I guess, endurance on Automatic's part.
And Handrail is going to be your lead jammer, so St. Louis getting some momentum here. Meanwhile, Jonathan R. skates right by Wrecking Bill, oblivious there to Jonathan R.'s location on the track. Handrail calls it off, and I don't think New York's going to get any. They are not, so 4 more points there for St. Louis, 0 points for New York as they start to jump out here a little bit. They will be down 2 blockers to start this jam. St. Louis will be. So a 4-on-2 pack advantage in favor of New York as it's Carnage Asada for New York taking on Magnum PIMP of St. Louis.
Gatekeepers need to not fall back into the problem that they had in the first half, which was getting into that penalty trouble and then things just compounding. But Magnum PIMP getting a lead jammer for the Gatekeepers.
Uh-oh. Look out. Magnum PIMP starting to get pumped up. Oh, wow.
Again, Automatic on the receiving end of another big hit.
Tell you what, Magnum PIMP not one to show a whole lot of emotion during play, and he is pumped up right now. 5 points there. Carnage Asada has completed initial pass, so Magnum's going to look to grab some points and call this jam off. He does. Let's see if he got any. He did get one more. Nice little move there as he spins around and goes in backwards as he pushes his hips out, as only your hips need to pass the opposing blocker to score that point. That takes us to 91-56 in favor of St. Louis. 23:46 to go here in the second half of Game 1, 2015 MRDA Championships, brought to you by WFTDA.tv. So Monster Jam with a hit on I Am Havoc, and then Spin Diesel drops back. So it's I Am Havoc out there against Shane Bauer.
Action yet to pass the antic pivot line. Bursting out from the pack. Oh, Shane Bauer, but gets forced out between turn 1 and 2. Poor Automatic takes another big hit.
I mean, Automatic is just getting pummeled out there.
He'll get to the inside.
Ooh, a big hit to I Am Havoc. Sends him to the inside, gets recycled to the back.
So very physical defense we're seeing here in the beginning of the second half. A lot of big hits being thrown by both squads. I Am Havoc does finally secure lead jammer. We're almost a minute in. However, Shane Bauer gets on him right away. Penalty box is empty as as I Am Havoc looks back to see if he needs to kill any penalties. And Shane Bauer overtakes him, and that's going to force the early call off. 0-0 jam.
You can see the toll that jam took on the endurance as I Am Havoc got out and just had no go to get back to the pack. Bauer ends up passing him, and Havoc rightly calls it off, but it's a very physical jam.
A lot of people don't realize the immense amount of beating these jammers take as they're basically forced to go it alone, as you don't see much offensive blocking here in the men's game these days.
So we're going to have Kimbo Slice going up against Corey Porter. Oh, Porter getting sent to the box for a low block.
Interesting call there. So a power jam situation here early in the second half for Kimbo Slice. Gatekeepers at full strength now defensively.
Not not good words for Kimbo Slice.
No. Now they're going to come in and try to play offensive.
So we've got, who's that? Incredible Hulk headed to the box for a back block for the Gatekeepers. Lead has been established. It goes to Kimbo Slice. Great job by the Gatekeepers, killing pretty much all of that penalty.
And then Corey Porter comes out like a rocket. And he's going to force the call off. So only 2 points there on that power jam. A huge penalty kill by St. Louis there. And now we're going to have ourselves a timeout called, I do believe, by New York.
You can see Jonathan R. calling everyone over. Time to give him the speech. Time to get him back into this. 2/3 of this bout left. We'd like to thank Rydell. Made in the USA, made for Derby, Rydell Skates. We would also like to thank Quick. Roll faster and farther with Quick ceramic bearings. Shock Exchange going to have the 4-3 blocker advantage as Incredible Hulk still sits in the box for the Gatekeepers. Looks like Jonathan R. is going to mount the jammer line, and it's good to see Screech Around back on the line for the Gatekeepers. Screech Around involved in that fracas at the end of the first half.
Good to see Screech Around back out there.
Yes. No worse for wear, it seems. This team timeout is now morphed into an official timeout. And now that it's an official timeout, I'd officially like to tell you about Radar. Radar Presto is the best wheel for nailing all types of stops. Nail your stops, Presto.
So what was only an 11-point lead at the half has generated a 29-7 run here in the second half for St. Louis, which takes our score to 91-58. in favor of St. Louis. If you're just joining us, St. Louis Gatekeepers in white, New York Shock Exchange in black.
You do the best color commentary.
Well, thank you. Chopsaw having a discussion right now with the coaches of both the Gatekeepers and New York. Didn't really see anything in that jam that would merit a discussion, so it's interesting to see this. I'm not sure if maybe one of the coaches brought something up that they wanted to have discussed. So it looks like Hulk is being brought out of the penalty box. So I'm not sure if there was an official review or what, but the Gatekeepers will be back to full strength here. An interesting chain of events there that puts the Gatekeepers back to full strength. And I don't see any official reviews used, so maybe the referees took it upon themselves to fix an error they may have made.
Always looking to improve.
Yep.
Some very, very good ref crews here this weekend.
Yes, some of the best you'll see.
Jonathan R. with one left to beat. And he does, getting lead jammer for the New York Shock Exchange.
Meanwhile, Screecheron fighting against a bevy of blockers there for New York.
Talked earlier about Sammy Dangerfield for Shock Exchange being on every play. Whenever Spin Diesel is out there, he is just a force to be reckoned with on defense for the Gatekeepers.
Now we have a track cut call on Screecheron, so a power jam for New York, an opportunity here. Blood Zeppelin with a nice force out there in turn 2 on Jonathan R. Forces him to cycle back. Cal Stark set up as the bridge as Monster Jam and Blood Zeppelin go to work on Jonathan R. They finally have to let him go. 5 points there for New York. Points have been at a premium so far in this second half for New York. Nice hit by Monster Jam. He's going to try to cycle back, but New York's sitting there waiting for him. Gatekeepers wall up at the back. Then Monster Jam forces Jonathan R. out as the power jam comes to an end, and now Screecheron back on the track. Jonathan R. is your lead jammer. You can call this jam off at any time. And that's what he's going to do here as Screecheron starts to come back around the score. So, 8-point jam there for New York. Trying to stem the bleeding here as St. Louis has jumped out to a decent lead here in the beginning of the second half.
Obviously a very important score for the scoreboard, but also for the mental aspect of the game for the Shock Exchange. Saw some of their players go back to the bench, slapping hands, as the kids say. I don't think any kids say that, but definitely getting them right back into this game mentally.
So it's Carnage Asada out there for New York going up against Magnum PIMP for St. Louis, and Magnum PIMP is just tearing his way through that pack, and he's going to be your lead jammer. Meanwhile, Carnage Asada finds an inside line, and he's through as well. So Marlon Brando sent off. Magnum PIMP calls that jam. Only 2 points there, but you know what? St. Louis will take it as more time comes off that clock here. 18 minutes to go here in the second half.
It's amazing to watch Magnum PIMP come up against any kind of wall. His feet just never stop moving. No. He's always churning, always pushing his way through. Three-on-three blocking cores for both Gatekeepers and, well, I guess Shock Exchange. You know that when I said 3-on-3. But jamming for the Shock Exchange is going to be I Am Havoc, Shane Bauer.
Oh, look at this. We got ourselves a power jam. Back block called on I Am Havoc, and Shane Bauer is your lead jammer. So a full 30 seconds of scoring opportunity here for St. Louis. Oh, and Shane Bauer just makes it look easy with the help of his blockers as they opened that inside line. Could have drove a truck through that one. Shane Bauer weaving his way through. Only Sammy left to beat. Sammy forces him out. Blood Zeppelin puts a lick on Sammy Dangerfield, and now Shane Bauer with another 5 points. So now we're going to have ourselves a big, big jam here for St. Louis. What has really been the difference so far in this game, whenever New York has made a mistake, St. Louis has been there ready to pounce. New York unable to capitalize on St. Louis's mistakes. Shane Bauer already with 14 points this jam. He looks to add more as the power jam has come to an end.
Led Zeppelin, excellent job. One left to beat for Havoc and just forces out, recycling him all the way back to the beginning of turn 1.
So it'll be interesting to see now if the Gatekeepers, when they get control of these jams, if they start to just go ahead and run these jams their full 2 minutes. They tend to like to do that once they get a lead. Shane Bauer now up front on another scoring pass. Already 18 points this jam. He's being cycled back, however. And now I Am Havoc being cycled back. So good defensive work here by St. Louis. And a nice little jump back to the inside by Shane Bauer. 5 more points. A 23-point jam there for St. Louis. Wow.
Just a amazing defensive effort there by the Gatekeepers, containing the I guess Havoc that is Havoc. He a very good left to right movement, can put you all over the track, but St. Louis doing an excellent job of containing that, allowing 23 points on that jam.
I do believe that is our biggest jam of the game. It came at a very opportune time. So Corey Porter out there now for St. Louis, going up against, I believe that's Kenbo Slice for New York. Kenbo Slice has been a good jammer here today for New York. Leads all scoring for New York with 24. Debaucherous Prime with 22 so far today. Corey Porter yet again taking full advantage of the rules that state you can have a hand out of bounds and still be in bounds. The contortionist that is Debaucherous Prime.
Oh, a forearm penalty is going to send, that's 82, Percy Control to the box. The
Percy.
Derby Elite penalty box.
That's right. Percy Control's played very clean today. That's only, I believe, his 3rd penalty. But now Gatekeepers finding themselves in some penalty trouble as Percy Control and the Saint sitting in the penalty box. Jeffery also in the Derby Elite penalty box. Jeffery being forced to skate around again, so that penalty is going to be a little bit longer. Kenbo Slice has completed his initial pass now. I think Corey Porter's just content trying to run as much time off the clock as he can to kill those penalties, and he's going to call that jam off. No wasted energy by Corey Porter there. He knows what's going on. Sees no need to force the situation. So what was a very tight game at the half has suddenly blown open a bit. St. Louis up 124-66 against New York. 13 minutes to go here in the second half.
So we're going to have Jonathan R. jamming for the New York Stock Exchange handrail. It is his 5th time out there.
Actually, no, that's, I don't know why they got a handrail. That's Magnum PIMP
Oh.
out there, actually.
I should look at the game instead of my monitor.
Yeah, you know.
Going to Michael Cole over here.
Meanwhile, Jonathan R. is going to be your lead jammer. Magnum PIMP is also free of the pack. The pack very spread out on the back straightaway, now starting to collapse a bit as Jonathan R. comes in to put some points on the board. Jonathan R. is forced to call that jam off, however, as Magnum PIMP quickly gets around 2 points for New York. Jonathan R. happy with the result.
I think Jonathan R. is just happy with everything. That is a smiling guy right there.
Yes, he is. Now we're going to have handrail on the track as he takes on Carnage Asada as they line up on the Lebedo Roller Derby jammer line. It's a 4-on-3 pack advantage. Jeffrey still sits in the penalty box for New York. Handrell trying to fight his way through, but it's Carnage Asada who gets through first, and he's going to be your lead jammer. Handrell forced to cycle back. Malcolm Sex drives him back farther. Carnage Asada back around, runs into the big wall there, and meanwhile, Handrell takes advantage of an open lane on the inside, so he gets free. Carnage Asada still trying to get through, just the Saint left to beat. Drags the foot out of bounds and is forced to call that jam off. 5 points there for Carnage Asada. So New York starting to put a little bit of a run here together. 7 points over the last 2 jams.
We're going to see Screech Around come out, take the jamming cap for the Gatekeepers. It's going to be Havoc for the New York Stock Exchange.
So suddenly we now have Malcolm Sex sitting on 5 penalties. Jeffrey is sitting on 6. Double XL still at 5. He's played very clean this second half. He had 5 at the half, so they have used him sparingly, however, in the second half, so that probably has something to do with it. Screech Around, your lead jammer. St. Louis with lead jam here. So back block called on Kyle Stark, so he'll take a seat in the penalty box. I Am Havoc trying to get through. Marlon Brando getting up a little limpy. Have to watch that right knee, as he's another one of those guys that plays pretty much every jam. Sorry, it was Abe Drinkin, not Marlon Brando. Led Zeppelin on his way to the penalty box. So now the Gatekeepers down 2 blockers. This is where they tend to find themselves in trouble. But Screech Around is going to call that jam off. Picking up 3 points for St. Louis.
With and granted, no lead with 10 minutes left is really secure when it's this close. But still, you got to think, those 3 points were inconsequential to how much time that burnt off the clock. That's the important part.
Yeah, what you're going to see here now, typically out of the Gatekeepers, they're going to try to run these, anytime they get lead jam, they're going to try to run these jams a little longer and take more time off that clock. Even if it means giving up 2 or 3 points, they're perfectly happy with that if it means taking a minute or 2 off the clock.
So we've got Kenbo Slice, most effective jammer so far for the New York Stock Exchange, going up against Shane Bauer, who's having quite the day as well.
40 points so far for Shane Bauer in this contest. 24 for Kenbo Slice. Both jammers leading their teams in scoring. Shane Bauer waiting for Blood Zeppelin to re-enter play, hoping to get some work. However, Kenbo Slice is going to be your lead jammer. I Don't Care Bear being sent off for a failure to reform. And also Malcolm Sex, I do believe that, no, that's 6 for Malcolm Sex. So now with 8:30 to go, we're looking at some big time penalty trouble as both Jeffrey and Malcolm Sex are sitting at 6. Both blockers for New York to eat up a whole lot of time.
Just looking at it, 33 jams Malcolm Sex has played. He is a fixture in the defensive lineups of the New York Stock Exchange.
We call that a workhorse. So Jonathan R. now on the Lebedo Roller Derby jammer line against Magnum PIMP. If you're just joining us, Gatekeepers in white, Shock Exchange in black, and Magnum PIMP is your lead jammer. Jonathan R. forced out to the inside. Everyone cycles back. Magnum PIMP already around for a scoring pass. Finds a nice lane outside. Takes a tumble, but is quickly on his feet. 5 points, grand slam, St. Louis. Oh, boy. Now there's an interesting situation. Jonathan R. lost his jammer panty, and the pivot, Sammy Dangerfield picked it up and then moved it forward on the track. That kind of allowed Jonathan R. an opportunity to get up front and grab the star.
It was the makings of a star pass, Jonathan R. to Sammy Dangerfield. Sammy Dangerfield smart enough to know, hey, I picked it up off the ground. Don't put it on your head. He was smart enough to know that, knowing that that was not a legal star pass.
And I think Pink is going to wonder why he was given. Well, maybe not. Nope, just wanted a clarification on something. So it's going to be Corey Porter against Carnage Asada on the Lebedo Roller Derby Jammer line. 3-on-4 pack in favor of New York. Corey Porter with just one to beat, but nice work. Oh, wow. Double Excel with a bone-crushing hit. And now Corey Porter being sent off for a track cut.
Just Sammy Dangerfield was the one that caught him coming out of turn 2. Went back. Corey Porter came in right ahead of Sammy Dangerfield when he got back on the track. So that's what drew that track cut. Lead jammer does go to Carnage Asada.
So Abe Drinkin looking to calm things down as Carnage Asada comes around. All 4 gatekeepers out there waiting to take Carnage Asada on. It's Kyle Stark, Double Excel, Spin Diesel, and the Saint. Abe Drinkin, Wolverine, Tank Lloyd Wright, and Sammy Dangerfield out there blocking for New York. Wolverine is going to go take a seat in the penalty box. Did not see the call. Corey Porter has completed his pass. Carnage Asada still trying to get through on a scoring pass. He's going to call that jam off. Let's see how many points he picked up. 5 points.
Five earned the hard way. Had to pass a lot of people multiple times.
And Abe Drinkin yet again with the theatrics, looking for calls.
So we're going to have handrail going up against I Am Havoc, unless that's Magnum PIMP again. Nope, that's handrail. Okay.
So I Am Havoc is your lead jammer for New York. New York starting to get a little bit of momentum here. The lead, 56. St. Louis, 141. New York, 83.
The Saint all over. I Am Havoc. Recycling him back now, along with Bud Zeppelin. Havoc will call it off after picking up.
4 more points. The situation, though, is they probably should have called that jam a little earlier as they took a lot more time off that clock. We're now down under 4 minutes to go. St. Louis with a sizable lead. It's going to be Shane Bauer going up against Kembo Slice on the Lebedo Roller Derby jammer line.
By no means am I saying it's over, but it's getting down to the time where you're going to start needing record jams.
Yeah. And those have been very few and far between in this game. We've only had one jam that was a significant jam. That was Shane Bauer's first half 23-point jam. The rest of them have been 5 here, 4 there, maybe a 9 here and there.
Kenbo Slice recycled to the back of the pack. Shane Bauer cutting. Got one left to beat. Oh, nice little juke on Abe Drinkin. Gets out and gets a lead jammer for the gatekeepers.
So Double Excel picks up a back block there. So he's going to take a seat. That's his 6th.
Excellent strategy by Bauer. Keeping Shock Exchange jammer from entering the pack, burning off as much time as possible.
Yep, 0-0 jam, perfectly okay with St. Louis as they hold a sizable lead here. Now 2:30 to go here in the second half. The score, Gatekeepers 141, New York Shock Exchange 87, and it's now going to be Magnum PIMP against Jonathan R. on the Lebedo Roller Derby jammer line. Both teams down 1 blocker, a 3-on-3 pack, and now we've got ourselves, I believe, an official timeout.
With this official timeout, we'd like to thank Powerdyne. Performance plates for the modern derby game. That is Powerdyne.
And that official timeout is due to the fact that Malcolm Sex has now officially fouled out of this game. We'll see how that affects the blocking schema of New York, as he pretty much played every jam this game.
That's 35 jams for Malcolm Sex, 37 for Abe Drinkin. That's endurance that I can't even imagine having.
I'll tell you what, that's a lot to ask of one or two guys to play pretty much an entire game. So Malcolm Sex is going to take a seat over there in turn 3 with his New York fans.
All right, official timeout is over. Going to get back into the action. Looks like we're going to have Magnum PIMP jamming for the Gatekeepers. Jonathan R. for the Shock Exchange.
Pack lined up at the antic pivot line. Jonathan R. oh, he does get through. So he's going to be your lead jammer. Magnum PIMP also out.
It's like Gumby. He stretched somehow one direction and another in a weird way that landed him.
And another apex jump. Then he gives a thumbs up to the Gatekeeper bench. Magnum PIMP picks up 4 as well. So curious as to the strategy of New York at this point, running these jams long. Because for every point that they're scoring so far, Magnum's putting up a point of his own. Now we're seeing some physicality here as Jonathan R. is forced out.
Sadly by his own teammate there.
Pink looking for a skating out of play on Jonathan R., but he was definitely forced out by Spin Diesel.
Jonathan R. skating like a man with his hair on fire.
And now St. Louis down 2 blockers, double XL. I believe that's his 7th. So now this game getting really physical here in the waning moments of the second half. Magnum PIMP, however, gets through and picks up 4 more points. So Jonathan R. has 14. Magnum has 8. So the jam clock a little bit shorter than the time clock. 30 seconds to go in this game now. New York has reached the 100-point mark. So a strong finish here by New York, but too little too late. Now 12 points by St. Louis. And that jam comes to an end. We have 16 seconds on the clock as New York is going to call a timeout. They want one more jam here. 18 points for Jonathan R. on that jam, 12 for Magnum PIMP.
I'm just going to make broad speculation because it's early and there's barely anyone listening. I imagine it's one of those situations where New York knows with a jam left, 2 jams left, that the game was in hand for the Gatekeepers, but they're warriors. They want to go out on their skates. They're going to skate as hard as they can. They don't want to call it off. Jonathan R. was going to pick up as many points as possible, let his boys play, and just enjoy the sport of roller derby as he seems to be enjoying life. I don't think I've seen him frown yet. He's a smiling, happy guy. We would like to thank Persephone's Treasures. Persephone's Treasures, get your name and number on your shirt in over 50 different colors, including glitter. We offer custom heat printing, full color printing, rhinestones, and embroidery. Custom decorated apparel, koozies, stickers, window clings, decals. For all your personalization needs, visit Persephone's Treasures.
So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Last jam of the game, and it's going to be Carnage Asada against Corey Porter.
We got an empty Derby Elite penalty box.
Corey Porter's got a lane, and he does get through. He's got lead jammer, and he's going to call this jam off and end it. So St. Louis will advance to the championship game. They will play the winner of the game coming right up at 11 p.m. between your mom and Texas.